And welcome into the Tuesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you. Joe Rexrode will be along a little bit later in the program. We are presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. Property managers, if you manage it, they maintain it. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. Hope everybody's off to a great start to their Tuesday. It is St. Patrick's Day out there, so happy St. Patrick's Day. Ian, good morning. How we doing?
Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Should be a fun day out there. Careful if getting into any shenanigans, I should say.
Yep.
Green beer might be flowing, so just be on the lookout. Head on a swivel. Careful.
Yep.
Use our best judgment, but doing good. It's cold out there.
It is.
It's breezy. I looked at the phone. I don't know. It was like 20-something. Feels like 16. I was like, really? Okay.
I'm hoping it's the last one of those, Ian.
So went out, turned the car on a little bit early today, get that sucker started up.
Yep.
But I don't know. I walked outside. I was expecting it to feel like really cold. I don't know. Maybe we've been hardened by the winter. Didn't quite feel as bad as I thought, but it's definitely not warm. So bring your jacket.
Ian's tough. That's what I learned from that discussion right there.
Definitely not. I don't know. Over the years, I've gotten softer, when it comes to the cold.
Same.
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I lived there until I was 12, and it snowed all the time, and we loved it, and we played outside. As a kid, you didn't realize it. Just no problem, no issues, no snow days there. They don't have snow days. They don't cancel school. You just deal with it. I don't remember ever really having a snow day.
Yeah.
Growing up in Ohio, up there in Cleveland. I guess because it just snowed all the time, and they had all the
stuff.
Yeah. And then we moved to New York, cold there, but we did get more snow days there. We got there was a blizzard. Oh, maybe it was 95. They canceled school the night before for the following day. And man, did we just go crazy. We're like, oh my gosh, they canceled school the night before.
They can do that?
Oh, we've never had that before. It was a glorious time.
That's awesome.
But yeah, as I've moved here now since 97, I'm pretty much over the cold.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
Hopefully this is our last big blast.
I hope so.
Back to 80 this weekend, we saw.
Yep, it's going to be awesome this weekend. So looking forward to that. Rexrode will be along shortly. He is traveling to Oklahoma City today to cover the NCAA tournament. He's going to join us from the airport here in about 30-ish minutes or so. So that could be hilarious, interesting, or disaster. We'll find out which one of those it is coming up here in about 30 minutes from the airport.
Probably all of them combined.
We'll assume that he makes it through security, which is perhaps a bold assumption, but we think he will. And then he'll be ready to go coming up here in about 30 minutes. So looking forward to that a little bit later in the program. We'll have Emma Lingen from the Hockey News at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Nashville Predators with her. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 will be with us at 8:30. So we'll get into some more college basketball with Steve a little bit later in the program as well. So I want to begin here today because we are now closing in on, free agency, at least the major wave of free agency in the NFL is behind us. We know the Titans were super active in free agency and added a lot of pieces to their team. I was just looking through The Athletic, and they went through their winners and losers of NFL free agency. The Titans fall into the winners category with the moves that they made. And looking to the draft. Now, you're on the backside of free agency now. The draft is the next big thing that's coming up here in the National Football League. And my question for Titans fans today is pretty simple. Like, how do you rank who you want with the number 4 overall pick? Because it seems like with Titans fans, there's a lot of momentum for Jeremiah Love. Right now, with some of these mock drafters, there's a lot of momentum for Jeremiah Love. I mean, Dane Brugler, friend of the show, his most recent mock draft has the Titans taking Jeremiah Love at number 4. And then this morning, Big Mel Kiper, this morning came out with another mock draft. And at number 4, he has the Tennessee Titans selecting Jeremiah Love. So there's a lot of momentum, not only with the fan base, but from some of these, high-profile mock drafters right now that have the Titans selecting Jeremiah Love at number 4. And the other thing that kind of stands out is, obviously Mendoza, all these people have him going number 1, but some combination of Bailey and Reese are off the board at number 2 and number 3, respectively, For instance, Kuiper's got Bailey at number 2 to the Jets and Reese number 3 to the Cardinals. And Brugler actually took a different approach in his most recent one. He hadn't done one in a couple weeks, but his most recent one had Reese going 2 to the Jets and Francis Mauioga going to the Cardinals at number 3, the offensive tackle. So
yeah, 3 seems like a crazy wild card to me right now.
It does. And, if that's the scenario, like if the Titans took – if it's number 4 and the Titans have Love and Bailey still on the board, that's probably the best case scenario for me because I would be, I think, pretty happy with either one of those two. But it just feels like most of the momentum right now from everybody involved in this seems to be to Jeremiah Love when it comes to the Tennessee Titans.
I wonder why that
Titans
is.
fans view it that way, or are you looking at it and you're saying, you know what? Like Arvell Reese is a freak. I hope he's there. Or David Bailey. Like we need an edge rusher. Like I'd be really interested to know today, and we'll get to it throughout the show today, how Titans fans rank what that looks like. So Ian Safar, as we sit here today on St. Patrick's Day, still a month away, a month out from the draft, month plus out from the draft. How do you feel about where things currently stand with the Titans, and how do you rank kind of what you'd like to see happen at number 4 for the Titans once draft day comes around?
I think my number 1 choice right now is still edge. They've done a good job addressing the defensive line in free agency here and in the trades, right? I mean, they've kind of revamped it. They've made a handful of moves. The trade Sweat for Johnson.
They've got basically a rotation now on the defensive line.
Bringing in John Franklin Myers. Yeah. So there's, they added the edge from San Francisco. You bring in Solomon Thomas. Yep. A handful of moves there. So I don't know where Femi Oladejo, second-round pick last year, fits into the rotation. You figure he's part of the rotation.
I would hope so.
You better hope so. If you're a second-round pick, you get on the field some. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to be able to make, how much you can count on him for that, but he's going to be part of the plan. So that's a lot of bodies right there. I mean, that doesn't really necessarily stop you at number 4, but I think it gives you more options that you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into, hey, we didn't really quite make enough moves on the defensive line here. We better force our way into the pick. So I think my preference right now is still edge just because of the positional value and how much I think that could really elevate them, although it's not their biggest need. And I don't really love drafting for need, but it feels like more and more teams are drafting for need, drafting the best player available at the biggest position of need.
Yep.
I'm not sure the Titans will do that. And if they do, maybe go that way. Maybe that's where the Jeremiah Love pick fits in because of all the positions, running back is the one they have not really done anything so far yet this offseason. They've made the wide receiver move in Wan'Dale Robinson. They're bringing back Calvin Ridley. They signed 3 corners. All the defensive line moves we've mentioned. Some offensive line moves here and there, nothing in the backfield.
No.
So that leaves you wondering, okay, there's room here for improvement, and they have not done that yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the Love situation still kind of lingers.
Well, nothing in the backfield that they've done, while I think everybody acknowledges that you can upgrade there. Like, would they be fine going through another season with Pollard and Spears? Probably, right? Now, I will say, it took the running game, and you can blame this, I guess, if you're Mike Borgonzi looking at it, you can blame it on whoever you want to blame it on, whether that's Brian Callahan or Bill Callahan or whatever. But it took over half the season to get the running game going to any sort of productive level last year. And there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, some of it is they were down so early in some of these games that the running game just gets taken away from you because you're immediately down 2 touchdowns and you got to start throwing the ball. So there's some of that too. But I think everybody involved recognizes that you can upgrade over Tony Pollard as your running back. And Jeremiah Love would be an upgrade over Tony Pollard as your running back. I just feels like that's where all the momentum is right now. And for a team that, while they've addressed a lot of things in free agency, I still think they need help at wide receiver. I still think they need help certainly at edge, as you talked about. Like there's a lot of needs that they still have. that I would rank of more importance than a running back. Then it comes down to, like, if you're the Titans, like, how much better is Jeremiah Love than all these other options, right? Like, because if Jeremiah Love, if you're looking at it, is clearly your best guy, then it's hard for me to argue with the Titans taking him. To me, that's where position does matter, though. Like, if Jeremiah Love and David Bailey are pretty close in your evaluation, I don't know how you don't go Bailey in that situation. Like, if it's close between those two players, that's where I think positional value has to weigh. But I just feel like all the momentum right now from fans, from mock drafters, from the whole thing is just screaming Jeremiah Love
Yeah.
to the Titans at number 4. So that's where we start today. Titans fans, I want to know from you. How do you feel about what the Titans should do at number 4? Who would you rank as your number 1 target in the number 4 pick for the Titans in the draft? Was it Jeremiah Love? Is it David Bailey? Is it someone else? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Off and running here today on Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on the Titans at 615-737-1025. I've thrown it out there. It feels like a lot of the momentum screams Jeremiah Love at number 4 for the Titans right now when it comes to the NFL draft. We've got Mel Kiper coming out with his mock draft this morning. He's got the Titans taking Love at number 4. Dane Brugler, in his most recent mock draft, had the Titans taking Love at number 4. It feels like a lot of the fans want Jeremiah Love at number 4. So how do you feel? How do you rank the options that could be there for the Titans at number 4? A lot of different thoughts on this. Here's one that I think is really interesting. You know, if you look at the moves, Ian, that the Titans have made in free agency, as you pointed out, almost all of them came on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like they had a lot of moves on the defense. They have, in some ways, totally revamped the defense.
Pretty
They got
much.
3 new corners. They've totally revamped the defensive line outside of Jeffrey Simmons, and they've added pieces around him. And there's still room for more edge rushers, there's no doubt. But they've basically, at this point, largely revamped the defense here. They have not done a whole lot on offense. Like they've brought in Wan'Dale Robinson.
And the tight end.
They brought in Daniel Bellinger, and they decided to keep Calvin Ridley. But, I mean, you're talking about not very much that's been done on the offensive side of the ball. They made a couple of moves on the interior of the offensive line, and we're not really sure how much either one of those guys can play. So there's not much that's happened on the offensive side of the ball in terms of impact to this point. So does that make it more likely that you're taking Jeremiah Love at number 4? Ultra BMW on the YouTube chat says you got to get your young quarterback a playmaker. They've gotten Robinson. It's not like Robinson can't play, right? Like I think, I'm not, Wan'Dale Robinson's not a number 1 wide receiver. I do think in some ways, like it's kind of been, oh yeah, it's Wan'Dale Robinson. Like there's probably been a little bit too much of that. I mean, he did have 90-something catches last year. So you have to keep that in mind. He's going to be a good player for the Titans. But they need more weapons. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They're going to have more weapons if they're going to be successful than what they've got on their roster right now. So if it's not Jeremiah Love, it doesn't feel like it's going to be one of the receivers at this point at number 4. So if you're going defense again at number 4 overall, are you hamstringing your quarterback heading into his second year? And how much do you have to think about that if you're Mike Borgonzi making this selection? It's an interesting point that's brought up.
One thing I've been thinking about just with the offense and the philosophy under Dable and Ward and what it would mean to bring in Jeremiah Love, are you completely shifting how the offense looks if you bring in Love? Are you going to the defensive kind of ball control, ground and pound? How much, if you're going to use the 4th overall pick on Jeremiah Love, how much does he need to be involved in order for that pick to make sense as far as the value goes?
Right.
Do you have to completely shift your offense around? I'm not sure on that. And that's something that I've been kind of going over.
Yeah. Like the one good thing for him is like he can do everything. Like he's a 3-down back. He can be involved in the passing game. So, I mean, if he couldn't do all those things, I don't think you really consider taking him at number 4 overall. So that's why he's in part of it, when you factor in the speed that he plays with, how productive he was in college, all those things. But the fact that he projects to be a pretty darn good 3-down back in the NFL, that's why you're considering this. And look, he's a great college football player. And I think with the skill set that he's got, he's going to be a really good back in the NFL. So if they take him at 4, I'm not going to be mad about it, right? Like, I understand it's a running back, and it doesn't excite me all that much, especially when you think about some of the other positions that are going to be available. But I get it. Like, I get why there's so much hype around Jeremiah Love here.
Is he that much better is he on par with the other top running back prospects we've seen in the past handful of years? Saquon, Bijan, Gibbs, McCaffrey.
It's a good question. I mean,
where does he rank Genty? Where does he rank within those guys who are top 10 picks at the running back position?
Yeah.
Were those guys worth it value-wise looking back?
And I think you can make the case that some of them were
and some aren't.
Some of them maybe not. So,
yeah.
Like
The versatility is going to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
If you look back at McCaffrey, Gibbs in particular, Bijan.
Yeah. Well, and even those picks, like, I think Saquon, if memory serves me correctly, was taken 4th overall. I don't think there's been a running back taken that high since Saquon. I mean, like Genty was 5th last year, so it's not like it's that far off.
6 maybe.
6, yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I think if the Titans went Love at number 4, I believe that would be the highest selection of a running back since Saquon. So not that matters all that much. If you think he's a great player, he's a great player. But that's what you're looking at here if you're the Titans. Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Mike and Gallatin to the program. Mike, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, guys, good morning. So you guys slowly started to dip into what I was going to make a suggestion about. So when the Raiders took Ashton Genty at pick 6, I think the fan base, I assume, was thinking he was going to come in there and be a world breaker first season. And clearly that did not come into fruition for them as they're picking number 1 now instead of number 6. And I think that you could see if the Titans were to go that pick that we have to almost curb our expectations for somewhat because we're still a broken offense if you want to look at it that way because we don't have all the right pieces. Now, do I think Ashton Genty's going to be a second-tier running back, down the line? Probably not. But if we're looking for instant impact that we're going to see like year 1 that could be a world breaker, that's what I think Bailey has that potential to be able to do. If you're telling me that those are the 2 choices that I could have laid out to me. I'm not against drafting Love where it sounds like you guys are too, but if we're going to have that pick come around, I just think that an Ashton Genty first season is highly possible with all the holes that we still have on the team.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It's a good point. It's a good point to bring up. Look, if you're forcing me to rank, and I guess that's the question that I'm getting back around to with Titans fans, I would prefer David Bailey be there. Like if David Bailey's there at number 4 and Jeremiah Love's there at number 4, I hope the Titans take David Bailey. That would be the way that I would go.
My biggest issue is if it's Bain versus Love.
I think I'd go Love
at 4. That's where I'm torn right now. If Bailey and Reese, go 2-3.
Yeah. Which is highly possible, by the way.
Is Bain 4? Is Love 4? Do you go Styles 4 just for the pure athleticness, the freakness kind of there? That's where it's kind of gets tricky to me.
Yeah. To me, if Bailey or Reese is there at number 4 compared with Love, I'd probably go one of those 2 guys.
I agree with you on
that. If it's not one of those 2 guys, like if Bailey and Reese are off the board and you're looking at Love versus, Sonny Styles or Love versus Carnell Tate or Love versus Ruben Bain, I think I'm going Love at that point. That's just me. That's the way that I would.
If you draft Love, do you have to do something with Pollard? Can you keep him on the?
You can keep him. I mean, I guess at that point,
is it a sunken? Are you stuck there?
Probably, but to me, it wouldn't be the worst thing to have him as like your. I don't know if it. I don't think it would be 1A, 1B, but you could have him, I guess, as the number 2 running back for a year, and then it's not like they're starved for money right now. So I wouldn't have a problem having Pollard as like the number 2 back for a year. Now, what I think that would do is like if you're looking at Jeremiah Love and Tony Pollard still on the team, I mean, I don't really know what Tajay Spears is doing at that point. Like, is Tajay Spears going to turn into some big time special teams player for you? Like, I don't know. So that part of it would be interesting. But again, like I'm kind of with Kuharski on the Spears part of this. Like Spears is, fine sometimes in the passing game and open space. At this point, like if you think that Tajay Spears is going to turn into some really good player, I don't think you're living in reality when it comes to that. So I'm not really all that worried about the Tajay Spears part of this. I would have no problem if they went Love, keeping Pollard around on the other side of that. But that part of it is really interesting. Like there are people bringing up, the running back history with the Titans. We got a couple of different texts about that, whether it's Earl Campbell, Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry, and how they've not won championships with that. I get that. I mean, look, still, whether they take Love, whether they take Bailey, whatever they do here, I mean, the most important part of all of whether or not they're going to win a championship is the first round pick that they made last year. Like that, Ward is still going to determine in the in the not too distant future how this thing goes. Like in 3 years from now, if he's really good, well, that's going to be the pick that really matters. And if he's not good, that's going to be the pick that really sets them back. So that part of it doesn't change. But how are you best surrounding your quarterback? Because look, we say not putting weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they haven't done a whole lot of that this offseason. It is possible, and it's a good way to help out your quarterback by getting him the ball more with your defense getting off the field. So if you draft David Bailey and he's coming out of the gate giving you 11 sacks, that's a pretty good start of getting your quarterback some help and getting them the ball more. And, not in every situation like it felt like they were to begin this year, where it's like, wow, the Titans are down 14 points immediately in the game. Like that helps your quarterback too.
Yeah. I mean, the Titans, true, have not won a Super Bowl with their, Eddie George, Campbell power running game, but we've seen teams win like that. I mean, Seattle just won the Super Bowl with their running back as the MVP of the Super Bowl and possibly of the playoffs. That's not necessarily the winning formula every year, but I do think running the ball and playing defense might be the quickest way to turn a losing season to a little bit of a winning season. Even though it might not be a Super Bowl stealing, it should help you get you closer to 9 wins and maybe crack the playoffs, run game and defense. Even if it might not take you over the top, it's better than what they've had. Maybe it starts a good foundation for Ward that way and build it up.
Yeah, I think that part of it is really interesting. We'll take more of your thoughts on this, 615-737-1025. We will be joined at some point by Rexrode, who I believe is making his way through TSA security right now. So we'll see whether or not he gets through
Godspeed, Joe. Godspeed.
Apparently it's a little rough out there this morning. Well, I'll take more of your thoughts on the NFL draft, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Robby Stanley, Ian Safar here with you. And our friend Joe Rexrode reportedly has made it through security. We welcome Rexrode into the program now. Joseph, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Actually, the security line looked worse to me on the front end than it ended up being. It moved pretty quickly, although there was a young person with like a temporary ID, and it became a big fiasco. But hopefully she gets on her flight. Hopefully
so. We wish her the best this morning
yes.
out there at the airport. Joe, before we get into some college hoops, we've been having this discussion of it feels like all of the momentum right now on the draft front for the Titans is screaming Jeremiah Love at 4. Like Brugler's latest mock has him at 4. Kuiper came out with the draft, a mock draft this morning, has the Titans taking Love at 4. A lot of fans on the text line want Love at 4. And I still say, like, if Bailey or Reese are there at number 4, that's probably the way that I'm leaning. If it's not Bailey or Reese that are there and they're off the board, which they very well could be by the time 4 comes around, then I think it's Love all the way. But a lot of Titans fans, really regardless of it right now, are picking Love, even if Bailey is available. And I think a lot of the reasoning that we've gotten so far, Joe, is they haven't really done much on the offensive side of the ball. They've done a lot on the defensive side of the ball this offseason to this point. So what do you make of basically everything right now screaming Jeremiah Love at number 4 for the Titans?
Yeah, no, I get it. We have another mock draft today, and I'm so glad you actually brought this up because, my gosh, am I going to be in the air? Oh, God.
Probably so.
But I get it, and this is one of those things where it lines up, it makes sense, so that's why people guess it. But also, are they guessing it because of this or that they heard in India? And is that information? Is that misinformation? As Ian has said, sometimes these things that it's like everybody thinks something, you get some whispers about it, and then it turns out to be missing. Now, a year ago, it was basically like the Titans love Cam Ward, and it was like, and that's what happened, right? Like that was real. So we haven't gotten that kind of a strong indication, but obviously some people came away from Indy feeling like like they thought he was maybe the best player in the draft. So I think you're probably going to see mocks dominantly have them picking him. I'm with you. I'm again, like, this is one of those things where it's like, I mean, you have to recognize your own limitations. I mean, they have way deeper information on all kinds of things when you compare these guys. So maybe it's just that obvious that, like, Jeremiah Love, when you go through everything, is just a better football player than David Bailey.
Yeah.
But I do think that, but I think that the part of the equation of, like, what's the value of an edge who could be what he might be for 10 years as opposed to the value of a running back. I mean, it better be like an unbelievable league defining running back if you're going to take a running back there.
No, for sure. I like I said, I think the last time that a running back was taken number 4 overall was Saquon. Now, there have been some other high picks since then. Obviously, Bijan Robinson was a high pick, but that high, like number 4, I think Saquon was the last guy, and he was, what was he, 2? Like, he was really high.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, like, it's been a while since there's been a running back that's been taken that high. So that part of it is really interesting. I just look at this right now, and it's interesting too to see like how much different some of these mock drafters are when it comes to who could go at number 3. Like, the Brugler in his latest one had the tackle out of Miami going, Maioga at number 3. I think Kuiper's got him going at number 11 this morning. A lot of them I'm seeing Reese and Bailey already off the board. So what Arizona does at number 3, like, I don't think right now, like, if you're the Titans, they're so unpredictable right now that, I mean, who knows? They could take Jeremiah Love. I don't think they will. They've got 2 running backs on their roster right now, but what does Arizona do at number 3 if they take Bailey and Reese? Like, to me, if Bailey and Reese are off the board, Joe, and it's like Bain is the next best option there, well, then I think you go Love because, frankly, like the arm stuff kind of scares me a little bit with Bane.
Yeah, I hear that. I am still intrigued by Bane. Like, I still feel like he could just end up being one of those guys who you move him around and maybe he isn't your classic edge. You want him working more against interior guys, and he has the strength that he can do that, but still be like a double-digit sack kind of player. He's fascinating. If it was that choice, I guess I'd probably lean that way too. Again, I'm not down on them taking Jeremiah Love.
No.
I just I think he's really, really good, and I think he's going to be a very good NFL player. But think back to Saquon Barkley and you watch him at Penn State. There's some of these other guys. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be as good as he is. I mean, I knew he'd be good, but I didn't think he'd be this.
Well, I remember when the Lions took him at 12 or whatever it was, and it was like, what are they doing? Like, why are you taking Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12?
Yeah, no doubt. And so that was obviously a good pick. But I just like Barkley. I feel like physically, Love and Barkley are similar. And I just don't know. Is Love that level of player? Again, if he is, then it's hard to argue with it, unless then a few years down the road, we're seeing David Bailey wreck games and the Titans are, they're struggling to find an edge and like they have to draft high somehow to get an edge, or they have to, that's the problem, is just the acquiring of great players at that position. Whereas the Super Bowl MVP just, got let to walk free and sign with someone else at the running back spot.
Rexrode has made it through security. We'll get his college basketball thoughts coming up next, including a big development right before the tournament yesterday in the world of college basketball. We will get into all that coming up. Right Time HVAC, Cromwell Media teaming up to bring comfort back to your home. Is your heating system struggling or completely out of commission following the winter storms? Or do you need a fix to get you ready for summertime? If so, nominate yourself for the Right Time Home Rescue and tell us your story. You can enter today at thegamenashville.com/HVAC, and you can win a new HVAC system installed by Right Time HVAC. Right Time HVAC, locally owned and operated. There's never a wrong time to call Right Time. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. The nation's preeminent bracketologist is with us, Joe Rexrode. Joe has made it through security. He's pulled up his mic at the airport. He's an absolute wizard this morning out there.
Yeah. So, boy, this is a really beautiful view of me. Just don't mind me. I mean, people watching at the airport is one of the best things about the airport. So, I'll probably just be like, my eyes will be drifting over this way, but hopefully I'm not really bothering people too much. At this point, I'm in kind of an area where there's not a flight at this gate. If that happens, I'm really gonna be an annoying dude who's taking up 3 seats and like barking into a microphone. People are like, what is wrong with that dude?
What, your microphone sounds silky smooth though. I mean, the voice is coming in real nice.
That's beautiful. Hey, by the way, speaking of the bracketology, so someone tweeted at me, I guess it's like Bracket Matrix, I think is what it is, ranks the bracketologists.
Okay.
And I was told that I came in 195th out of 290 this year. So that's
how is that possible?
Well, so he said, and I haven't been able to find this. I got to see if I can find this. This is like a Michigan State fan who I've been interacting with on Twitter forever. So I think it's actually a real person. So he said, so I had 68 of 68, but apparently a lot of people did, obviously. And I had 49 of the 68 with their exact correct seeding. The number one in the nation had 61 seeded correctly. So number one in the nation had all 68, but 61 correct seeds. I had 68, but I had 40. I was 12 fewer correct seeds, which dropped me to 195th in the nation.
Well, that doesn't really line up with my narrative, so we're not going to call you the 195th best bracketologist in the nation. We're going to call you number one.
That's fine. I mean, I think Lenardi, like, they call him number one all the time, and he ranks usually like in the 200s, so it's cool. It's whatever, dude.
So speaking of the NCAA tournament, some news yesterday, 4 days before Alabama plays in the NCAA tournament, Aiden Holloway was arrested, will face 2 felony drug charges with Tuscaloosa County Police. And until this situation is resolved, Joe, he ain't playing, according to the reports of it. So what do you make of this development? How much does this change things for Alabama, who is a 4 seed heading into this?
Yeah, well, I already thought Hofstra might beat him anyway. So now you have to think there's a pretty good – I mean, you're talking about obviously LeBaron Philon is Alabama's best player, and when they really need a bucket, they go to him. But then Holloway is option 1B on that, and a guy who can break someone down and get you a big shot. I mean, he's a key part of their team. They already they do not measure up to some of the recent Alabama teams, especially inside. And of course, that's why Charles Bediako was of such interest in Nate Oates. But man, it's hard for me to see them doing much. And I don't know, again, I know like the initial reaction I had yesterday was like, it's weed. Okay, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot. That's the amount of weed that then turns into like felony distribution. And so is it possible to get like a plea? Usually there's still some time where you have to pre-trial meeting and everything, and then you get the plea bargain. So, I mean, I would assume, unless they can fast track it, and maybe they can, that we're not going to see him in this tournament. So Alabama is very much a diminished team then, and then you just wonder about the distractions. Now, maybe they come out all fired up and blow Hofstra off the floor. That certainly could happen too, but I don't see them doing much in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they were, I think, an interesting team from the standpoint of you don't really know what you're going to get from them heading into this, and now you take out one of their best players, and that's going to be a big problem as that tournament goes on. So you would think that that's going to be an issue for Alabama somewhere early in the tournament. Like I would again put them in the category, Joe, of now being very surprised if they get out of the first weekend here. So we'll see what that ends up looking like as you have kind of sorted through all this and you've had some time to look at the bracket. Are there a couple of matchups as we get ready? I guess technically first 4 stuff begins tonight, but as we get ready to kind of get this thing rolling here, are there any matchups in particular that you're looking at that really stand out to you in the first round that are of particular interest?
Well, I always look at the 8-9s. I mean, I think Ohio State TCU is a fascinating game. Ohio State's playing like top 10 in the nation, in the last few games. That's a good. I mean, Clemson Iowa too is another game that I think is a really good 8-9. Uh, like I said yesterday, like the round of 32 is where it's like I'm looking at all these possible games we're going to get, and it's like, man. But certainly, well, first of all, I mean, even like Alabama Hofstra was already interesting anyway. Just stylistically, one of the best, 10th in the country in defensive field goal efficiency for Hofstra, and against obviously that Alabama offense. The 5-12s are always interesting. McNeese is that's a dangerous team for Vanderbilt. A High Point, as much as I could see Wisconsin making a run, High Point's good enough to beat them right away. You look at Kentucky and Santa Clara. I mean, that I think is a fascinating game. I mean, I would favor Santa Clara. Are there any deep upset possibilities? It's harder to find them, but it doesn't mean they won't happen. But I'm looking at 1, 2s, and 3s. I mean, it's just hard for me to see any of those things happening. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and one of them does. Another game, a team that I think could be dangerous, but also could, because they're banged up. I'm sorry, you got the airport.
It's okay. We can barely hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. The UCLA UCF game, is UCLA healthy enough? Donovan Dent has a calf strain. Tyler Bilodeau hurt his knee. If you've been watching UCLA, and they just took it to Michigan State the other day, they've been on an absolute tear. Basically, since Mick Cronin went nuts on my buddy Matt Wenzel and was like, "Come on, dude, the cameras are on you, bro." And it's like, yeah, but they're on you, and you look like a jackass. Ever since that moment, they have been incredible. I mean, I got to tip the cap to Mick Cronin. Like, that meltdown at the expense of a reporter somehow got his team playing like they are playing like top 10, if not top 5 basketball. If they get past UCF and, Dent's okay, Bilodeau's okay, they get past that game, which is a tough game, man, watch out UConn. Watch out UConn for UCLA in a 2-7 game. I know now I'm jumping rounds again, but like that's one of those I look at and I say, dude, that could be like UConn just isn't playing well. And they really haven't played well for a lot of the last month.
In terms of coaching explosiveness and, potential for a volatile situation to happen on the sideline or in the post-game press conference, UCLA UConn could be some all-time stuff. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Oh, man. Yeah. Hurley Cronin. I mean, can you imagine? And then if whoever wins that game probably gets Izzo. So, I mean, got, talk about good times there. Yeah. I do, I'll tell you one team a team that I almost picked at the Final Four.
Okay.
But I didn't. But a team that I think absolutely is good enough to make a run. But also, could this be the team that goes out early in shocking fashion? Illinois against Penn. Fran McCaffrey, that sneaky Fran McCaffrey. One thing about Fran McCaffrey, at Iowa, like his teams were not very good defensively, and there was like a ceiling on all of them because of that, but they were really good offensively. Yeah, Illinois, again, they're talented enough to Illinois is talented enough to win the thing. I really believe that. But also there's a softness about them and a late game chokiness about them that's really alarming. So, like, if Penn hits threes and hangs around, like, maybe that's one that could be a shocker. Again, I think every year in this tournament, there's teams that can make runs that are good enough that might have made runs, but they get bounced right away. And maybe that would be one of the, high seeds that could be vulnerable.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We talked yesterday about Vanderbilt and the record-setting year that they're having athletically. So with that investment, we've seen it pay off for Vanderbilt. What about the investment that Tennessee is making? And when are the Vols going to start winning big? We'll get into that coming up next. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Come play hooky with 1025 The Game this Thursday at Jelly Rolls Goodnight Nashville, and on Friday at Boomba's in East Nashville from noon to 6. You can watch the basketball games with us, enjoy great food, handcrafted beverages, and win prizes as well. NCAA tournament coverage on 102.5 The Game is presented by Maple Street Biscuit Company and Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. For homes and businesses that want to stand out, not blend in, visit greenventureslandscaping.com. Emma Lingen will be with us at 8 o'clock from the Hockey News. We'll get into all things Preds with her. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 coming up at 8:30 on the program. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, it's tournament time coming up. We talked about it yesterday. Vanderbilt, a 5 seed, probably underseeded, probably should have deserved a little bit of a better fate, but not a bad draw heading into the NCAA tournament. The Vols, as a 6 seed, the lowest seed that they've been under Rick Barnes. And, Joe, it leads to a larger conversation, I think. And we've had, different versions of this conversation, but there's another layer to it added this past weekend as Vanderbilt beats Tennessee again and wins the season series, I guess, unless they play each other in the tournament coming up, but wins the season series 2-1 against Tennessee. And you have, as we discussed yesterday, I mean, it's a fantastic year for Vanderbilt, right? When you factor in football, it's the best football team they've ever had. Mark Byington's doing a great job with the basketball program on the men's side. Obviously, Shea Ralph doing a great job with the women's side. They're a 2 seed heading into the tournament. They've got probably the best player in the country. They've got young players in a backcourt that could be amazing for the next couple of years here. So, and then there's Tim Corbin in baseball, and you know what he is. So things are going really well on the Vanderbilt front right now when it comes to the athletics part of this. There's been obviously investment in that area that has changed with NIL, and everything's going well for Vanderbilt. On the Tennessee side, Joe, I think a lot of Tennessee fans are asking right now, it's like, okay, well, there's all this money that Tennessee apparently has, and there's all this money that they're spending on NIL. And as you've discussed, Danny White has done a really good job of making a lot of money for this athletic department, and they're right up there with some of the elite programs in the country when it comes to the dollars that they're generating here. So when exactly is that going to pay off in winning big? Now, in fairness, they have won a national championship in baseball, and obviously that coach is no longer here. So we'll see what the baseball team kind of looks like moving forward here throughout the rest of this year and looking ahead. But you've got a basketball program with Rick Barnes that's been very successful. As we know, they have not broken down the door and gotten to the Final Four. It's a huge year for Josh Heupel on the football front. They started spring practice yesterday, so that's going to be interesting. A lot of Tennessee fans are now saying, hey, all this investment, when's it going to start paying off? It's paying off for Vanderbilt. When's it going to start paying off for us? So, Joe, if you're a Tennessee fan and you're looking at that and you're having that discussion, how do you view that as we sit here today with Vanderbilt having all this success in Tennessee, which has been fine, but not the top level success that I think a lot of Tennessee fans are looking for across the board?
Yeah, well, I get it. And I think things like this obviously get intensified if your rival is doing big things. And let's be fair, let's be honest. At times, I think that Vanderbilt hasn't even been, they've been a rival. You're in state, it's a thing, but they haven't really even been in the same stratosphere at times, right?
Yeah.
So, certainly in football, but even recently, in recent years, this has been the best era ever for Tennessee basketball, and Vanderbilt has been struggling, and they're trying to figure it out. And Bryce Drew era blows up, and Stackhouse can't figure it out, and so, and then we know, the comparative histories of women's basketball programs. Vanderbilt had some great teams in the '90s, early and late '90s, but it does. Tennessee, as we know, Pat Summitt. It's one of the greatest American coaches in any sport. So then all of a sudden now you have this. I think this is the golden era of Vanderbilt sports right now. And you mentioned all those things. Candace Lee, the athletic director, I don't think you can say enough about the leadership. You talk to anybody over there about all this stuff, and they will quickly go to her as the thing that ties it all together. A leader, someone who just connects with people. Obviously, he connects with boosters. You have so many different hats you have to wear as an AD, but I think she's one of the best ADs in the country, and I think that we are seeing the results. So now, like you said, with Danny White, financially things are going well. Things are going well, but then we have the thing yesterday that comes out. Matt Brown,
Yep.
Who does his own extra points. And was Tennessee second on that? I'm trying to find.
I believe they were
list
number
as I
2.
talk right now.
Yes.
Yeah, Indiana. Of course, you got Indiana number 1 with $9 million more than anyone, and they're not in the tournament. Now, one thing to remember with these things, real quick on that, is different athletic departments. I've learned this like the hard way many times trying to do things like this, where you're comparing like budgets of like different departments count different things differently. It is hard to get apples to apples with this. Like sometimes it's like some of your, like you might separate, some places might separate out some of the stuff they do with promotions and marketing and stuff as a separate thing, and then some count it with each program, for example. Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind with these. It's probably not exactly apples to apples, but at the same time, I mean, clearly Tennessee spends a lot, they invest a lot. And by the way, I mean, if you're upset as a Tennessee fan that you have a team that's a top 25 team, that's a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament, and it's the worst seed that your coach has had, my God, step back for a minute and appreciate what your program is. I mean, I think that's important to say. Like this is the low point for Rick Barnes here since they've been on this tournament run, and it's a 6 seed, and they absolutely have a chance to go to another Sweet 16, and they have gone to 2 straight Elite Eights.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean,
I just think in general, though, like you're spending all this money, and the expectation when you do that is you better be competing for championships, and
Sure.
they're not in football. And we'll see on the basketball front, but they're not in football. The women's basketball program right now, I have no idea what that's going to look like. It's looking like it's trending towards disaster. I mean, that could change. I mean, it's the beauty of college sports nowadays. It could change very quickly in the span of one off season. But I think there's, from the investment level, I don't blame a Tennessee fan for looking at where things are at right now with your athletic department and say, okay, well, it's been pretty good, but it hadn't been championship level. When's that going to start happening?
Yeah, no, it's fair. And the thing is, for all the things that I just mentioned, all the hats and AD wears. And so Candace does all these things really well. But what is the best thing she's done? It's still the most important thing about being an AD. It's choosing coaches. Byington, Shea Ralph, Clark Lee. I mean,
yep, pretty good.
Right. And so Danny White, what are his choices? His choices are Josh Heupel and Kim Caldwell.
And I guess he landed now, but yeah.
Yeah, but yes, that's true. And but it's sort of like one of those, well, I guess we'll just go with the interim guy, and which I think was the right move, by the way. And we'll see how that works out. But Heupel, I mean, it's certainly much better than we thought, or I'll just say me.
No, he's done a good job. Yeah, he's much better than we thought. Yeah.
Is it championship level? No, not at this point. Is it going to be? I mean, it's just I don't know, but it's totally fair right now to be like, okay. And again, I think it's hard to talk about college football and expectations and coaches without quickly of getting to like Signetti. It just is a problem for everyone because it's like, okay, I mean, they figured it out. Why can't you? So, I mean, I think that's something to keep in mind here with all this. But yeah, I mean, at some point soon, you want to see that from Heupel. I mean, I thought that 2 years ago they had a really good team, and didn't go well in the playoff, but they made the 12 team, and we know all the things that have happened since then, and the quarterback position and all that. But yeah, like, are we seeing his strategy? Is his strategy going to start paying off more in terms of like just top to bottom roster talent that you've developed to where if you get the right quarterback, now you have a championship ready team? I don't know, but that's the expectation. It should be. And so I understand the restlessness right now for sure. And look, if you look big picture, the athletic department of Tennessee, I think the women's basketball situation makes everything a little worse, right? Because it's just been kind of a bleep show.
To a degree, yes, I would agree with that. But I think a lot of this is coming from, like, specifically Vanderbilt. Like, I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you're looking at it and you're saying, all right, we got all this money. And we watched Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt come in on the road and just absolutely annihilate Tennessee at home, right? Like, it just absolutely destroyed them. You watched the men's team beat your basketball team twice this year, including in the SEC tournament. You watched the women's team just beat Tennessee, right? So, like, it's like Vanderbilt specifically right now with the investment level. And look, Vanderbilt has, as we talked about, they've invested heavily in athletics. But Tennessee, you're talking about upper crust elite money that they're spending, and you're just getting beat by Vanderbilt all the time now. Like I think a lot of Tennessee fans look at that and be like, "What? Like how is that possible?"
Yeah, no, I get it, and I do think this is also. I mean, again, it's choices, and you know, I mean, if you want to take it to like a pro comparison, you know, I mean, we see lower payrolls in MLB win, right, and stuff like that happens. But you know, I think it is also a commentary on this era and how it can help an athletic department like Vanderbilt. If you're going to do the stuff, if you're going to get in there and you're going to spend, and they got some people, they got some money people, as we know. And I think that obviously they've done a really good job. So in a way, it's just, even though you're right, I mean, Tennessee has gotten their budget up there to the top levels. You know, this era so far has helped Vanderbilt and some other programs like Vanderbilt more than some of the big boys.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. So what do you make of this? The investment level for the Vols, pretty high. When is it going to start paying off in winning big? And if it doesn't, what happens then? We'll get into all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Some reaction to our discussion on Tennessee and their investment level. Joe Keith says the problem with spending all that money is the fan base then becomes entitled. I get that spending money also comes with scrutiny, but I try to remind myself it doesn't guarantee anything. We have a Vanderbilt fan that says that Caldwell, a dead woman walking, soon to be followed by Heupel, White, and the new baseball coach. Vanderbilt is the University of Tennessee. So Vandy fans having some fun this morning.
Wow, little trash talk. By the way, I'm gonna this segment I might speak a little more quietly because now there's people around me, and I'm totally that dude at the airport who like is completely oblivious to people around.
Thoroughly
him.
Enjoying every second of it, by the way.
You're thoroughly enjoying what?
I'm enjoying every second of it. Just how many people I can see in the background, like how many people are just progressively getting closer to you, and you're doing a radio show around all of them. And the thought of just the inner conflict in your head makes me very happy.
Yeah, I've definitely, I probably have ranted about people doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So, oh well, it happens. At least I see the person behind me is on the phone now, so maybe we'll be distracted by something other than our conversation. Here's another text. I got a Danny White is a joke. He's saving all that money for the damn entertainment center he wants in Neyland, and I'm a huge Vols fan. I mean, again, like that's not. He's not saving money. Like that's. The entertainment center is a separate thing, and certainly people are upset about that. That's but that's not what this is about. This is just about performance by the people who've been hired. They've invested the money. They're not shorting anyone. Okay, so that's the thing, though. That's the point of the segment, right? Is like they are investing, and it doesn't guarantee anything. And so then when you have Vanderbilt doing this stuff, it's going to make it even look worse in that light.
So what happens if they don't start winning big? And I guess you could define winning big, depending on what team we're talking about here, any way you want to. But here's kind of how I view things. Like, I think you would agree, like Rick Barnes is going to determine his own future here, right? Like he's going to coach Absolutely. As long as he wants to coach. And whenever he decides that he's done, then he'll be done, and you'll go make another hire after that. But like Rick Barnes is never going to get fired by Tennessee. So I think we would both agree on that. Yes. Baseball, like what happens with Elander, and I'm not even necessarily talking about this year, but here in the next couple of years, if they're just okay, like what does that look like? Kim Caldwell, obviously, like things are going to have to turn pretty sharply next year as to where they're going right now. And that's both from a record standpoint, Joe, and how she handles the team, which doesn't look like that's going very well right now. And the big one, obviously, is Heupel of, if they're 7-5 this year or 8-4 this year and they're not a playoff team, well, what does that look like? So if, wrapping this whole conversation kind of together, if things don't get a lot better on the football front, or they don't turn on the basketball front, or baseball turns into an average or maybe slightly above average program, where you're spending all this money. What do you think this all means for not only those coaches, but for Danny White as time goes on here?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's not good for him. I mean, I don't think we're, anywhere near that, but, I do think like for example, I mean, look, the Heupel hire has been validated, right? But it's just at some point you just may have to be like, okay, there's someone that can take it to a higher level. That's what it is. That's still a good hire, right? Yes. But the Caldwell hire, can be viewed. Remember, Danny White is renowned, and he should be, for being a coach finder. I mean, he is identified talent kind of out of nowhere. Nate Oates being one of those people. In his career as an AD. And so when he hired Kim Caldwell, there were a lot of people in women's basketball like, really? That just seems like a little bit of a reach there. The Kelly Harper firing, I mean, I think that was more understandable than the replacement. If that turns out if it just totally flames out, that's one of those, are you a little too smart for your own good here, with this stuff, maybe, I mean, it intensifies the pressure. And then with baseball, it's like, I don't know, man, it's hard for me to knock what he has done. And also, like, it's in the first 5 minutes of Josh Elander's tenure. Let's also,
there are way too many hot takes on the Elander front right now. Just give it some time.
Yeah. So, but I like to me, that's just you're kind of put in a bad spot. That's the obvious move. And then sometimes we also have some of these, like, as far as I can tell, totally made up narratives, like the whole thing with, basketball or baseball. Look, I have no doubt coaches in all these athletic departments would like to have more of the rev share and another team to have less. But like the idea that, I mean, Vitello has basically screamed into a bullhorn. That's not what this is. It was the freaking San Francisco Giants, and he took the job. Like 99.99% of humans in the same position would do. But but those things also, I just feel like some people don't like him. So I'm speaking about Danny White,
Yeah.
and then you also do have the seat licensing, the talent fees, and that stuff makes people mad, and that I totally understand.
Well, and that's part of this too. It's like if
Yeah.
there's all this stuff going on, and if you're going to pay all this money to attend, particularly football, is what we're talking about here, you better start winning big, right? Like that's the Adidas deal is part of that. Like you bring in the Adidas deal with all this money. That's as soon as it comes out, they start talking about recruiting and how much that's going to help and the money that goes with that. Like there's going to be a lot of pressure moving forward to win. And like you said, I mean, they have won, but are they going to win big time? Like is football going to turn into a national championship contender? Are men's and women's basketball consistently going to be threatening for the Final Four, right? Like is baseball able to maintain what they've done under Vitello? And, is that even possible having, 4 programs like that sustain in this modern day and age? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, which is, again, why I'd love to see them put a whole lot of money in football and get that going, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's a very fair question. Again, now we're talking about like Vanderbilt. Now I know that some Vanderbilt fans are a little worried about this baseball team too. I think both of these baseball teams are like, I don't think either one of them is going to be in Omaha this year, and that's a down year for both, right? So, but like it's a totally fair question. Can you sustain 4 at the level you need? But I also go back to, it's not just the money. If it was, then Kentucky wouldn't be a middling
Yep.
team that I think is about to lose to a 10 seed with their $22 million roster in basketball. By the way, did you see Axel Lendeborg claims that they offered him $7 to $9 million and he turned it down to go to Michigan?
I did not see that.
Oh yeah. I gotta hear Mark Pope on this one. First of all, like you don't. How is that your range? 7 to 9 million? Can you narrow it down for us? Was it 8? Like yeah. Anyway, but like there's a great example of like it's just throwing money at stuff and just loading. Like you got to be strategic, and there are teams out there in all these sports that on much tighter budgets are better because coaching, evaluation, development, being able to like create a culture that's a winning one, even in a microwave kind of situation. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it beyond just money.
Joe, have a great flight to OKC. Enjoy yourself in Oklahoma. We will talk to you tomorrow, my friend.
The world's 195th best bracketologist signing off.
Live from
Have
the
a good
National
show,
Airport.
fellas.
That's right.
That's right. All right. See you guys.
Joe Rexrode will be back with us tomorrow on the program. He is taking off to OKC to cover the NCAA tournament. So we'll have Emma Lingen coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Predators with her. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 will be with us to talk some college hoops at 8:30. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up later this hour at 7:45. And coming up next, we'll get back into our question that we began the show with of Titans, the number 4 overall pick. Seems like a lot of momentum going for Jeremiah Love. How would you rank who you want at number 4 overall if you're a Titans fan? More on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
That said, who do you think is the best player in the draft?
Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. This young man put on an absolute show when it comes to physical talent and athletic ability at the combine. To be his size and to run 4.36 coming off of his performance in his career at Notre Dame, I know he's not going to go number 1 overall. That is more than likely going to be Fernando Mendoza. But when it comes to the best player in the draft, that's Jeremiah Love.
I've been hearing that all season long, from Mel, Mike. And the question is just about the position, right? How high are you willing to take a running back? Because there's no pick that's too high for the talent in this case.
Correct. And there were even some teams that said he could play receiver at the NFL. So I think going into the draft, we said, oh, he'll just go to Kansas City at 9.
Nah.
I agree with Dan. Oh, he's top 5 because he's so explosive. You take that time speed with 42 career touchdowns reading. I can see John Harbaugh, first pick as a New York Giant, say, hey, we're going to build around this guy.
No shot he falls to number 9.
That's Dan Orlovsky, Mike Tannenbaum, Greeny on Get Up discussing Jeremiah Love. A couple friends of the show there, kind of.
Mike T, not overly.
We determined 1.5 friends of the show.
1.5, yeah. Mike T.
Orlovsky, friend of the show.
Yeah, wasn't too busy on the train today. So
kind of running
good.
through train stations every time we get on.
Yeah,
which is fine. We appreciate his time.
Hustle, big city.
A lot of hustle going on out there. Jeremiah Love. I mean, to that point, it was pretty common when the draft process started here to see Love forecasted to go number 8, number 9. So it was either the Saints at number 8 or the Chiefs at number 9. Well, obviously, both of those teams have addressed running back. I mean, you got ETN going to the Saints. You've got Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs at number 9. And I think
interesting, the Chiefs were willing to spend money in free agency on a running back and a running game.
I agree. Yeah,
I don't know if that says anything about the direction of their offense and what they kind of thought was lacking this past year.
Well, and they bring Justin Fields in yesterday. And, some of that is probably, it's a backup quarterback that's available, so you need a decent backup quarterback. But is Mahomes going to be ready? Like, is Mahomes going to be ready to go?
That's right, towards ACL.
By the time the season starts. And that's from and look, I think if you're Kansas City, you're looking at your offense, and something's got to change, right? Like, you got to change up the way you're operating. Yes, you have Mahomes, who is the best quarterback on the planet. But
stylistically, those guys don't feel like a match.
They don't. And also, like, the offense, frankly, just hadn't been very good the last couple of years there. And I understand, like, Kelsey's gotten older, and you look at their receiving core, and it hasn't been especially impressive. So, like, there are reasons for it, why it's gotten bad. But, they're leaning into some different stuff now. You got Kenneth Walker coming in. But I also have to wonder, like, in part, if you're Kansas City, if you're New Orleans, and you're going out and signing these backs, is part of that because you just don't expect at all that Jeremiah Love's going to actually make it to you at number 8 or number 9, right? And you don't – look, people have talked about the idea of trading up. It'd be a tough sell for me to trade up for a running back in the top 10. It just would. Like, if you want to pick one in the top 10, that's one thing. Trading up and giving up future assets to go get him, to me, is another thing. I've just never really found that scenario overly likely. Like, to me, that happens.
That seems
with
a bit extreme.
A quarterback, or if you think there's like some extremely good pass rusher.
Well, the Saints messed that up big time with Ricky Williams.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, dude went all in.
Yeah. So,
and that was terrible.
Yeah. So I've never really thought that part of it was going to be realistic. But look, Love is pretty consistently being mocked to the Titans right now. We started this, this conversation earlier in the show. Brugler's latest has Love going 4 to the Titans. Mel Kiper came out with a mock draft this morning that has Love going number 4 to the Titans. A lot of Titans fans are all in on Jeremiah Love. So it feels like all the momentum right now screams Jeremiah Love at number 4 to the Titans. And I just wonder, number one, is that reality? Is that, draft time smoke screens that other people have thrown out on the text line? And number two, like, if you're a Titans fan and you could hand pick somebody at number 4 that's realistically going to be available, is Love the top guy? Or is it Bailey? Is it Reese? Do some people still love the idea of Reuben Bain at number 4? Like, I just wonder, if you have choices there, who's your top pick? Most of them that we've gotten in so far say Love. We've gotten a lot of Bailey.
I'm still leaning edge.
I am too. Like to me, it depends on who's there. Like I said it earlier in the show. If it was Reese or Bailey,
The
I'm
athletic
probably-
freaks,
yeah.
just top level guys that just do not come around measurables very often.
yeah, I would go that route over Jeremiah Love. Now, if those guys are gone, which they very well could be with picks 2 and 3, and it's Jeremiah Love versus Sonny Styles or Jeremiah Love versus Ruben Bain or Caleb Downs or Carnell Tate, I think I'm going Love at that point. So it's a long way in, I guess, of me saying if they take Jeremiah Love, I'm not going to have a problem with it. If I had
Assuming
my choice,
those other guys aren't on there.
right? If those other guys are there, I'm going like Bailey's really who I want. I want David Bailey.
I kind of started the process liking Bailey the most just from watching him in the playoff and the season kind of down the stretch. But as the process has gone on, I would not dislike the Arvell Reese pick. He seems like, this is probably an extreme, but I get weird Javon Curse vibes with Arvell Reese and how undersized athletic freak who people kind of thought was maybe a tweener. But if you have the right vision for him and the right plan to put him on the edge, he might really be able to make some damage.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy that and we've talked about this with Kuharski. Like you worry about playing that position in the NFL when you've been an off the ball linebacker. What's that going to look like?
He's fast.
In the NFL, but
he's strong.
The measurables are what they are, man. Like
he feels instinctive to me in some of the plays that I watched. He's on the field a lot. They used him a lot, kind of, I don't know, as a wild card on that defense, linebacker, inside, outside, on the edge. The versatility is intriguing. So I don't know. I kind of think Reese is my number 1, Bailey's my number 2. And I'm not sure. I'm torn between Bain and Love if they were to fall. Yeah. Right there. I think Bain might be a good fit for Saleh.
I agree. If you're not totally convinced that he can be effective coming from the outside, that is a problem for me. And look, I don't know. Maybe they are. Like they may look at Bain's tape and say, you know what? I understand the short arms thing, but this guy's a unicorn. He's going to be different. And if that's the way they feel, then okay. Rexrode earlier in the show was talking about like, well, maybe he doesn't have to come off the edge. Maybe you can move him inside. And if that's the case, I just don't know I don't know that I can do that at number 4, right? Like I think number 4 overall, that'd be a tough sell for me if you're not convinced that he's going to be really effective coming off the edge.
Yeah, that would be a good pass rush platoon, though.
Sure would.
If you put Bain, Simmons, John Franklin Myers, and I don't know, Femi or whoever, Jermaine Johnson as your other guy, as your 4, kind of on third down, NASCAR package. You stand up, you move them around, you run some of those games that they like with the defensive picks. I think they can make some damage on that.
I do too. I just like, are you
that would have to be part of your overall part of your overall defensive pass rush plan, more so than just line your guy up and see how you can get him one-on-one. With Simmons there, I think that makes a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as what you could get with Bain, even if he can't be the main guy, I think what you can do with the versatility on the line with all of them, you can probably create some pressure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just, I'm trying not to fall into the trap of what we fall into too often, which is putting way too much emphasis on like this time of year and the measurables and all that. Like, the tape still needs to be what the most important thing is. And, Saleh has talked about, the tape for Ruben Bain is what it is. It's pretty darn good. I just, the arm stuff scares me. And maybe it shouldn't scare me as much as it does, but it does.
I mean, there are
scare me.
Stats that back it up. That, if your arm length is whatever, you don't put up the sack numbers in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's just, there are stats out there that point that out.
Sure.
So it's a fair point to bring up, and which makes this whole decision pretty fun here over the next month.
Oh, and as other people have pointed out, like they've done a lot on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. I mean, we've gone through it. They've in some ways revamped their entire defense. Now there's still, obviously room for more pass rushers, but they've revamped a lot of their defense. They have not done a ton on the offensive side of the ball. Wan'Dale Robinson has come in. They're keeping Calvin Ridley. So you've got two veteran guys at receiver that you feel pretty good about, particularly if they're healthy. Now, is Ridley going to be healthy? We'll see. And you got 2 fourth-round picks from last year that, flashed and showed some good things. So I think you're feeling okay about receiver right now, but they still need another receiver. Like, they need another receiver in the mix there, whether that's at 35 overall or if you find them a little bit later in the draft, I don't know. But with Robinson and Bellinger being the 2 big moves you made on offense, have you surrounded Cam Ward with enough weapons to maximize what he could be in year 2? I mean, I think the answer right now is pretty clearly no.
Right.
So how much does Love change that? And if multiple people have pointed out, if he can play 3 downs, which everybody believes he can, and he's a good pass blocker and he can be effective catching the ball out of the backfield, well, that's why you draft a running back at number 4 overall if he can do all those things at a high level, which the consensus seems to be that he can.
You brought this up earlier in the show, and it was a pretty good point as far as positions that could still use the biggest upgrade. I would throw running back in there.
Yeah.
As far as the lack of moves that they've made this offseason, my question kind of is coming back on this is what running backs later in the draft might you be able to still pick and upgrade the position and not still use a value pick at number 4?
Right. Like, what's the difference between, like, how much of a gap is there between Jeremiah Love and whoever that you could find in the 3rd or 4th round?
They've taken some 3rd round running backs lately and it hasn't really panned out. Some later ones, Spears, Haskins. Who was the other kid from Michigan?
God, what was that kid who got hurt all the time with a hamstring?
Mullings.
There's more. Mullings
Khalil
is there
Mullings.
now. There was another one they took in the 3rd round whose name is currently escaping me that wasn't that long ago that I'm trying to remember what his name was. I'll find it. Hold on.
Darrington Evans.
That's it. Darrington Evans.
So they've had a few and it hasn't really panned out. And Spears kind of felt like a change of pace guy, not necessarily your RB1.
Yeah.
Do they try and look for somebody in the 4th round, 3rd round,
maybe
that can add to the running back room that you don't necessarily have to take Love at 4 and still upgrade the running back position?
Yeah. No, that's certainly possible. 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rob rant coming up next. Emma Lingen from the Hockey News will be with us at 8:00. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
I suck. I am the worst ever.
Losing's really not in my vocabulary.
102.5 The Game. You come for sports takes, you stay for gout updates.
It both entertains and disgusts me.
Who cares about his short arms?
Now you better not lose this football game as I sit in the pool.
I'm going to jump in the Cumberland River.
What's the rant? That was his story.
Win one for the Pekka. It is time for the Rob Rant here on the program. You can check it out every morning, either the Rex Rant or the Rob Rant. We'll take your thoughts at 615-737-1025. As I begin this rant, Ian, I'm reminded that I think I rant about public restrooms and or the urinal too much, but we're going to add another one to the mix today.
All right. I know we've had one about the troughs.
We've had one about the troughs. We've had
things,
one
yeah.
about the, you've got
Bathroom in
a
Jacksonville?
line of, there's the bathroom in Jacksonville that didn't have the partition. You've got a line of urinals available. Let's say 7, 8 available.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody just comes right next to you. Like
Yeah,
there's a
don't
lot
like
of
that.
different urinal/public restroom rants that we've kind of rolled through on this program. I got another one for you. Can we not put the phone down while we're at the urinal?
Okay, that's risky.
Is that not a reasonable thing to expect? And I've encountered this problem a couple of times over the last, I'd say month and a half. Obviously, I think both of these situations. Now, one of these situations was at Bridgestone at a hockey game, and another one was just at a public restroom somewhere else. Whether it's what I most recently saw, which is somebody, just playing on their phone like Tetris or something while you're at the urinal, or having a full-on conversation on the phone while you're at the urinal. Like, can we not have the conversation outside of the public restroom and then go handle your business? Or is this acceptable? Because I look at this and I just think it's very strange behavior to be walking in the public restroom, messing around on your phone, having a full-on conversation with somebody while you're handling your business in the public restroom next to people. Like, I just think it's a weird thing. So can we get off our phones for 15 seconds?
Seems fair.
Heading into the room. This is my question for the public today. Can we do this? Am I being unreasonable here? I don't know what it is about urinals and public restrooms that create such problems for me. Apparently it does. I guess it's a me thing.
Well,
let's get off the phone at the urinal.
It's a germy place, the bathroom in general. You will wash your hands. Phones are dirty. Are you having such an important conversation that you cannot finish the conversation before you get in? Like, if I'm having an important conversation that I need to, actually handle right now, but I also have to use the restroom, I will finish the conversation and then I will go use the restroom. It's not like, oh, this conversation is so important, or maybe you just have to go so bad and the conversation is so important you can't hold it anymore and you just got to make it happen. Maybe that's the situation we've run into.
There
But
seems to be a lot of casual conversation going on for emergencies.
okay, but I don't like having important phone conversations in public as it is. It's not, this is my business.
I agree.
It's not your business. No one needs to really know about it. No one cares. So I just handle my stuff personally, and then we go about handling our other stuff. That's pretty much how I handle it.
Yeah, I just like a full-on conversation. And look, I don't know exactly what the person was talking about, but it didn't sound overly important. Like, hey, man, let me call you back here in about 2 minutes. I'm going to go in here to the bathroom. I'll call you back. Or let me just call you back in 2 minutes. You don't have to explain what you're doing.
Or finish up your conversation and then go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I'll just give you a call back. Or, the playing games on the phone is just
playing games.
I feel like this is
on the phone in the public restroom?
in the public restroom.
Oh,
Like,
my.
I feel like this is it's a larger symptom of some of our problems. And if you're like me, you find yourself several times throughout the day.
Yeah.
Just
picking up the phone.
the phone for no reason. Like, you're just picking up your phone and you just start
Open
mindlessly
it and click it.
scrolling, which is part of why I got rid of Twitter. So I think it's helped some. Not where I want to be on that front, but there's just too much. Like, I feel my phone vibrate all the time in my pocket and it's not vibrating. Like, it's just, we're so attached to the phone part of it. So I guess that's probably some of this is maybe people are going in there and just doing it second nature and they're not even really thinking about it. But I feel like you got to think about it some if you're on the phone having a conversation.
Yeah.
So,
maybe
that's my message. Get off the phone in the urinal today.
Maybe one exception. I was thinking about this. Perhaps the game is on. You're streaming the game. Maybe use the restroom.
They probably do need some.
We're coming down to the last minute here.
Yeah,
this is a big week for that. Okay. Oh, I got to use the bathroom real quick. Oh, we got a couple of buzzer beaters.
Yeah.
Let me just have the phone streaming up here while I finish my business right quick. Make sure I don't miss any of the action.
Probably could use, like if you're in Bridgestone, you probably could use a TV. I know they've got like the radio broadcast in there. You probably could use a TV to see the action.
We pump the arena feed through.
The problem with that is you get people like that just stand at the urinal. Like they don't want to move. Like they want to sit there and watch, if there's a power play for the Predators, you're done handling your business and you're just sitting there watching the television at the urinal at that point, holding up the line. So I guess there is some of that. What's going on? As Dennis points out, Ian says streaming the game while you're streaming. Good call.
How about that?
Good
Double
call
streams.
Good call.
Don't cross your streams.
Let's quickly hit the phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland to the program. Adam, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Robby, you got a great point, man. Hey, you know what I noticed? And I think a lot of it's not just like a urinal thing. I think people today in 2026 can't be just silent and not fidgeting. And I've noticed it when I went to pick up my kid from the school dance. I noticed that he was playing on his phone, and all the kids are playing on their phones. Like, man, you should be in there getting rejected and learning how to talk to girls, figuring stuff out. But they're all just like, I'm just content staring at my phone right here instead. So I think it's a bigger problem, than just the urinal, man.
I would agree. Thank you for the call, Adam. I mean, it's everywhere.
We're setting a bad example as adults.
I'm just trying to start small, though. Like, just get off the phone in the urinal. And I don't think that's too much to ask. A lot of agreement rolling in on the text line. Derek says he will not have any sort of conversation in the bathroom. It's just too awkward.
Yeah, it is awkward.
Got someone that says, if someone's on the phone in the public restroom, I'm constantly flushing the toilet or running the hand dryer until I leave.
The hand dryer's a good
difficult
one.
as possible.
The hand dryer's a good one. It sounds like a wind tunnel in there.
Yeah. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Emma Lingen from the Hockey News will be with us coming up next. We'll get into all things Nashville Predators with her. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Rexrode in the air, headed to OKC to cover the NCAA tournament. He will be back with us tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., so looking forward to that. Preds in action tonight, and they're taking on the Winnipeg Jets. They got a busy week coming up. They'll be return home on Thursday for a big game against Seattle. And to help us talk all things Nashville Predators, we head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Emma Lingen to the program from the Hockey News. Emma, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you taking time to be with me this morning. So, Emma, it's a interesting time for this hockey team right now because they got a huge win last week against Seattle to pull them within 1 point of the playoffs. And you thought, all right, well, the deadline is come and gone, and they go on the road. They get this big win even after a mini sell-off by Barry Trotz. And here they are, 1 point out of a playoff spot. Then they blow a lead to Vancouver and lose, and they lose at Edmonton on the road. And, a week later, they're sitting here 4 points back of Seattle for the playoffs. So basically, since the calendar flipped to January, Emma, as you know, they've been unable to really gain much traction. Like they got really hot in November into December, and they've basically been right around 500, I think actually slightly below 500 since the calendar flipped to January. So with all that in the background, what do you make kind of where they are right now and the inability to gain much traction in the playoff race over the last really couple of months?
Well, quite honestly, I think that inconsistency or that lack of clarity on where they are is your answer as to where they are. I think that even though, yes, the numbers say that technically they are, within reach of a playoff spot, I think that you can't let that deter you from, the reality, which is that I think this is not a playoff team. I think that, Barry Trotz made that decision at the deadline when he sold off the pieces that he did, the ones that are on expiring contracts. I think what's interesting, though, kind of like the parallel that I've noticed, is that we've actually seen this with this team not that long ago. It was the 2022-23 season, and that was the year that Barry Trotz was announced as coming in to replace David Poile. That was the year that they traded Matthias Ekholm and Nino Niederreiter and Mikhail Granlund and Tanner Jeannot, and all those guys got traded. And then on top of that, Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg were both injured.
Yep.
So they had to bring up all of these young kids. That was when, Tommy Novak came up, Evangelista, Igor Afanasyev, guys like that were the ones really driving the bus. And if you'll recall, they were in the playoff race up until the final two games of the season. So it's not like we haven't seen this before. And I think still, unfortunately, that little run may have, kind of led to some, I don't know what the word is, maybe some misconceptions about where exactly this team is. I think, though, that it's what you want to see. You want to see your young kids come up, getting that playing time, getting that exposure in a somewhat pressure-filled environment because they are still playing meaningful hockey, and that's important. But I think you shouldn't treat it as more than what it is, which is that valuable experience for these young players who are going to be your future leaders, and that is what you want, is for them to be playing meaningful hockey right now.
Yeah, I think all that's fair and all that makes a lot of sense. As you know, this is now a situation with Trotz stepping down where you're going to hire a new general manager, and then I'm really interested to see what path that general manager decides to take. Like when whoever it is that they hire comes in, and you're looking at Stamkos with a couple years left on his contract, O'Reilly with 1 year left on his contract, the Marchessault thing, which I think they've been trying to move him for a while, but. How do you view that if you're a prospective general manager coming in? And like if you're Bill Haslam, are you open to like tearing it down to the studs and rebuilding it, or at least somewhat rebuilding it? Do you feel like you're, I don't know, a year or two away from being competitive? Like all that's really interesting. And in the meantime, Emma, like if you're Stamkos and O'Reilly, you're looking at this and you're like, okay, well, we want to win right now. You're Josi. We want to win right now. I guess one of the most interesting parts of this offseason to me, Emma, is going to be how do these veteran players, once there's time, beyond the chaos of a trading deadline, once there's time in the offseason, how do they view where this group is and how that affects their futures individually?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be very interesting to see because, for the first part of that question, I think if you're the prospective general manager, I don't think that you're 1 or 2 seasons away from being competitive. I think, unfortunately, we fell into that trap 2 seasons ago when we brought in, guys like Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. And I think that, that strategy, we tried it, it didn't work. And that's okay. Now we know, but now I think it's time you go the tear it down route. And tear it down, I think, can have a lot of different meanings, honestly. So I think that you can look at that from a bunch of different perspectives. But if you're the veterans, that I'm very interested to see as well, because a lot of these guys, of course, like you said, at the pressure of the trade deadline, while they are still technically in reach of a playoff spot, of course they're not going to want to leave. They're committed to the team and they're committed to what they're building and what they're doing here. But a lot of these guys now, once you get past that pressure and into the off season where it's a little bit more open-ended, I think you're going to need some clarity from whoever the new general manager is in terms of what exactly the direction is with this team. And if it is tear it down, then I think that's where you try to start moving some of those bigger contracts, assuming that the players actually do want to go try and win somewhere.
What have you thought of Matt Wood at center, who has been pretty productive over the last few games here? Obviously, he's played center, where he was drafted, and they've moved him to the wing. So long term, I don't know whether or not they're going to keep him there, but what do you make of how he's played at center to this point?
I've been really impressed with Matt Wood. I think that he has, really ever since he came up, the moment hasn't looked too big for him. I think he's been very poised, he's a good leader on the ice. You can see that he's comfortable out there. I think that at center, he's a good playmaker, I think. But again, like you said, I don't know that I would want that to be your long-term solution to the fact that this team has virtually no center depth. And that's honestly why you couldn't trade a guy like Erik Haula at the deadline, because you had no one else to play center. So I think that as a long-term solution, like let's kind of zoom out a little bit and look at how you have beyond him and, eventually Brady Martin, you really don't have center depth in this organization. I think you still need to continue to add to that. But in terms of what he's been able to do in sort of this high pressure situation, I've been really impressed.
So it was an interesting kind of a tidbit from Pierre LeBrun last week. And we haven't talked about this a whole lot on the show, but I think it is something to monitor over the offseason. Like basically LeBrun said, if the Predators decide to go a different route with the new general manager coming in and do what we just talked about of maybe tearing it down a little bit, if you're Roman Josi, like what does that mean? It's hard to imagine Roman Josi playing somewhere else and he's got full control over that. Now, I've said that, it was hard to imagine Shea Weber playing somewhere else too, and he did ultimately. So like I just wonder, like if you're Josi with a couple years left on your contract and they decide to go rebuild mode this offseason, how do you think he handles that? Like what do you think comes from Josi's camp when it comes to like, obviously he's still a really good player. He's getting paid over $9 million a year, and we're reaching the latter stages of his career where he wants to win. That part of it could be really fascinating this offseason that I don't think a lot of people have thought about yet.
I agree. And I've thought about it quite a bit because I personally, like you said, bringing up Shea Weber is a good comparison because I right now where I'm sitting just have such a hard time seeing Roman moving on and going to play somewhere else. And, even if the team goes into a full rebuild and whatnot, because he just, it's so hard to imagine that because he has been kind of the face of this team and obviously the captain for so long now. I think that of course, he has a family, he has kids, he has a life here. He is, not that that's stopped players before from moving on to different teams, but still it's more things to consider, I think. And so I I genuinely don't know. I think I personally just have a gut feeling that Roman isn't going to be the type to ask for a trade. I don't think that he's going to go to whoever the new general manager is and say, hey, I want out, like make it happen. But I could see a scenario in which whoever the new GM is maybe comes in and says, hey, we need to free up some cap space. We want to, we have this vision, whatever it is. Would you be interested? And I could see him, being amenable to that, but I don't see Roman being the one who is necessarily going to initiate that conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's so many people are focused on obviously the Stamkos, the O'Reilly, the Marchessault part of it. I just thought it was an interesting tidbit from Pierre LeBrun last week. All right, last thing for you here. Obviously, they got a ton of games coming up over the next week here, and they play Seattle again head to head. They play San Jose head to head a few times coming up. So those games are going to determine a lot of what we see here. When it comes to kind of this last push here, if they are going to make the playoffs, what has to happen in your mind? Like, who's got to lead the charge for them that maybe either hasn't done it yet or is cooled off? Like, how do you view, if they're getting in the playoffs, what's that going to look like from the Predators' perspective down the stretch?
Well, I mean, not to oversimplify it, but I think a lot of it has to come down to kind of the big three that Barry Trotz viewed as sort of the core of this team, and that's Yossi, that's Saros, and it's Forsberg. I think Forsberg has cooled off quite a bit lately, and that's not anything that I'm necessarily concerned about. He's kind of always been this way. He scores in bursts. We would just hope that one of those bursts is coming around the corner here soon because we haven't seen it in a while. So I think you need Forsberg to be firing on all cylinders. I think you need UC Saros standing on his head because, again, I go back to the 22-23 season when that young group of players came up and it was a very inexperienced team playing in front of him. That's when we saw UC Saros play some of his best hockey, was when he had that young, inexperienced group in front of him. But I think just sort of as a larger conversation, I think the defense really needs to tighten up. I mean, I've been saying that for the last 2 years, honestly. I think that it's not just, yes, Forsberg needs to score and you need your goaltender to stop the shots, but the defense as a unit has really concerned me with this team. And that's a big part of why, even if they were to make the playoffs, I'm not sure how long they'd be able to make a run because the defense is just, it's slow, it's disconnected, and you need to see a little bit more of it, kind of tighten up there.
Well, Emma, great stuff as always. Appreciate you taking time to be with me this morning. It's going to come quick here, the final 16 games of the regular season, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Very welcome. Emma Lincoln with us here on the program from the Hockey News, does an outstanding job covering the Nashville Predators. We'll take your thoughts on the Preds and Jets coming up, and an interesting piece that I saw from The Athletic this morning as it relates to the Preds as well. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Today, Vanderbilt baseball hosts Indiana at Hawkins Field. First pitch at 2 o'clock. Catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan. Coverage presented by Gary Force Acura. If you need to fill out a bracket for the NCAA men's tournament, head to theGameNashville.com/mayhem and print off your bracket today. Presented by Toyota. Fuel your adrenaline at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Also brought to you by Pizzona MD and Thompson Machinery. We will have Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 coming up here in just a few minutes. In about 10 minutes, we'll get in some college basketball with him. So looking forward to that coming up here in just a few minutes. Thanks to Emma Lingen for being with us in the last segment. Preds are in action tonight, taking on the Winnipeg Jets. It's the final game of their road trip before they're back home on Thursday with a large game against Seattle. Now, a big game tonight. You've got the Predators at 67 points. Seattle is at 71, so you're 4 points back of a playoff spot. You have San Jose in front of you with 70. You have LA in front of you with 71. So there are already three teams in that mix, kind of right above the Predators, one of them being Seattle in that final spot. Well, Winnipeg's right behind you. Winnipeg has 66 points. So if you lose in regulation tonight, you're going to be hopped by Winnipeg in the standings as well. So it's a big game tonight on that front. You know, obviously, as Emma pointed out, there's been an inability to gain any traction for the Predators over the last little bit here. They got a lot of young guys in the lineup. You know, I saw something this morning at The Athletic that's pretty interesting. You know, the goalie tandems heading down the stretcher. Now, this is a few days ago that Jesse Granger put this out there. And Jesse Granger does a great job at The Athletic. He's kind of focused in on the goaltending part of it, and he covers the Vegas Golden Knights. So it's good stuff. And he stacked up basically like the goalie tandems and put a power ranking evaluating all 32 teams with their tandems. And there's a bunch of different things that go into it. I mean, obviously stats are involved. You know, their career-long performances go into consideration. You know, what did the results look like this year? There's a lot of things that he kind of factors into this. And I was looking to see where like the Saros-Ananen tandem ranked. And I kind of figured it would probably be, you know, middle of the pack, somewhere around there based on like Saros and what he's done in his career. Coming in out of 32 teams at number 26 in the power rankings is UC Saros and Eustace Ananen. I'll read you the description that Granger put out there. It says, quote, visually, Saros still looks like an elite goalie. His footwork and speed maneuvering around the crease are world-class, and yet his numbers are terrible for a second straight season. The Predators are partially to blame, but this could also be a lesson in why some teams shy away from undersized goalies. When they're on their game, they can be as good as any of the 6'4" monsters. But when they're off their game, fewer pucks hit them by happenstance, and the stats can crater more easily. Saros and Dustin Wolf are examples of that this season. They're both incredibly talented and capable of being elite, but smaller goalies playing behind bad teams have no margin for error. So, Ian, what do you think of that, of Saros and Ananen as a tandem? Number 26 on the power rankings for Jesse Granger at The Athletic.
It seems a little bit on the lower side than I would anticipate. 26. Interesting about the whole smaller goalie theory there. I don't know. I feel like I have kind of noticed teams that they shoot high on Saros.
No doubt.
I kind of noticed it during the Olympics. I feel like they like to go high blocker as is, I don't want to call it quote unquote weak spot, but I feel like high blocker is where teams try to kind of, you know, pick their spots on Saros. So I wonder about the short goalies. You don't see them anymore as much lately.
Yeah.
It used to be kind of be the thing, and a tall goalie was the exception.
Yep.
Now it's kind
They
of
all look like Pecorino.
Now it's kind of the opposite. Yep. Like if you're below 6'2", it's kind of surprising to be a starter. So, well, I'm not sure. I thought Saros played well in the Olympics.
I agree.
I was worried about him at first, but I feel like he kind of turned his play around during the tournament. I wouldn't put any of the Finnish downfall on him whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see long term how he kind of maintains his athleticism down the stretch. They all say he's such a hard worker.
Yeah.
And and that's great and all, but that can only get you so far.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think anybody questions like the work that Saros puts in or anything like that. Like he's a great teammate, all those things. So like all those things I think, are where they need to be. But the numbers, like the numbers are what they are. And how much of that is the team around him? How much of that is him? And, we talked about with Emma a lot of the decisions that the general manager is going to have to make coming into this. Well, I mean, you could add that to the mix. I mean, I don't know what you can do with the contract. First off, he's got full control over whether or not he moves. So there's that. It's also, there's a lot of term left on that contract. So my guess is Saros is going to be here, and the new general manager is going to have to, figure out how to make the team better around him and try to go that route. But that whole thing is really interesting to me. I mean, we mentioned the LeBron piece from last week of, hey, keep an eye on Yossi this offseason. What this new general manager decides to do when he comes in here and the direction that they go. I mean, there could be a massive domino effect this offseason.
It's pretty obvious that Trotz valued Saros.
Yeah.
Maybe more so than other GMs around the league.
Correct.
As far as what he asked for in trade value, maybe perhaps what he got on the deal for the term, especially.
Yeah.
The money wise, as the cap goes up, doesn't look as bad. But the term is
contract starting at 30 with that term is it's a long contract.
It's still up there. And it'd be interesting to see when the new GM comes, like you said, what he thinks about the goalie position and just his overall thought on Saros, because I do feel like he's somewhat polarizing.
Oh yeah,
as a player.
No doubt.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do about that. The defense around Saros is interesting this year, considering they spent some resources on Perbix, Haig, bringing some guys in, trying to solidify the decor.
Yeah, but Yossi, when he's been healthy this year, has been good.
He's been better.
I do think their defense is better than it was a year ago. It's still not great.
Is it like a system thing?
Probably some of it.
At this point, Saros should be used to the new system. He should be used to where the shots are coming from. That was like the whole thing when
Well, I mean, look, there's no doubt his play has dropped. Like the numbers are what they are. Like his play has dropped. How much is he to blame? I guess is actually the root question of it all. That part of it, I think, is going to be really interesting to try to nail down here. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 will be with us coming up next. We'll get into some college hoops with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. Property managers, if you manage it, they maintain it. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. Robby Stanley alongside Ian Safar. Talking a little college basketball. And to help us do that, we head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Steve Lehman to the program from News Channel 5. Steve, good morning, brother. How we doing?
Robert, good morning. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. It's a fun week. I mean, Rexrode was with us a little bit earlier in the show. I mean, he's just like a pig in sloth, man. And this is just it's right up his alley this week with the NCAA tournament beginning. So let's start, Steve, on the Vanderbilt front. So they obviously 2 huge wins over the weekend against Tennessee and Florida. They get to the SEC championship game, come up short against Arkansas. What do you think of the job Mark Byington has done as Vanderbilt's a 5 seed heading into this, and how dangerous do you think this Vanderbilt team is heading into the tournament?
I think he should have been coach of the year in the SEC. I just think the job he's done in 2 years to totally make over this program and keep the key pieces from last year, and the way he coaches them and the way they play on offense and the types of things they do defensively at times, I just think it's really, really impressive. And I think the resume is really good for this team. I've said it the last couple of days. I think the NCAA selection committee did a really good job with this bracket. I think they got the right 68 teams. I think 99% across the board, they did a really good job with the seeding. But if there is one gripe to the bracket, it's the Vanderbilt is a 5 seed.
Yep.
I think their resume is way better than that. They are clearly better on paper than the 4 seeds. And I think that's by what they did in the regular season, the body of work, and the predictive metrics. So I really think they deserve better than the 5 seed they got. You could have made an argument, especially if they maybe would have won on Sunday, that they could have gotten to the 3 line. But here's the bottom line. It's kind of a small quibble because they're the number 1 5 seed. They're playing a 4 seed. Essentially, the only difference you have there is which jerseys you're packing for the game on Saturday if you get to the second round. And I just view this as a team that has a really good path in front of them. I think they'll beat McNeese. I like their matchup against Nebraska in the second round. And we just saw what they did to Florida in the semifinals on Saturday. So I think there is a path here. If Vanderbilt can bottle the way they played over the last couple of weeks, that they could make a run and be deep into that second weekend with maybe a chance to get to the Final Four.
And then there's Tennessee, Steve, which, you know, it's a 6 seed. It's the lowest seed they've been with Rick Barnes as their coach. And then, you know, the second half of the season, when everybody was healthy, it looked like they were figuring some stuff out. I mean, other than blowing leads to Kentucky, which they did a couple of times, they started to play really well. Then Ament got hurt. Obviously, he's back now. There's a lot of inconsistency offensively with Tennessee, but they still have a lot of talent on their team. So what do you make of Tennessee as a 6 seed and maybe their path heading forward here?
Yeah, it's interesting, Robbie. Actually, if you look at the bracket and the underseeded teams, and I think there's way less of a gripe here, but Tennessee is actually probably the second most underseeded team based off of the predictive metrics.
Yeah.
They're pretty much 16 or 17 right on that 4-5 cut line the way you look at it, and obviously they get a 6 seed in the tournament. Now, I think that's right based off of the way they played at the end of the season and really the whole body of work for them. But the real question to me is, by losing on Friday and having a full week to prepare, can they get a 100% Nate Ament this week? And can they get back to the way they played when they won 8 of 9 games in late January into February? I think it's possible, and that team can make a run. The way they played down the stretch of the season, I don't see it against the path they have. I think they're probably fine in that first game, whoever wins the first 4 game in the matchup. I just think they'll be tougher than either one of those teams. But that Virginia team in the second round, that's a really, really good team, coached well by Ryan Odom. I think that's a matchup problem for them. And the rest of that region is pretty difficult as well. So to me, it comes down to, can they hold on to the basketball? Can Nate Ament be 100% and take a little bit of the pressure off of Jacoby Gillespie? He is a stud, Robbie, but you can't ask him to shoot the ball 20 times and most of them be at the end of the shot clock and all that. If they can hold on to the ball and Nate Ament gets back to being a superstar level freshman, they've got a shot. But that's a big ask in 1 week's time.
Steve Lehman with us here on the program. So, Steve, we've talked about this on the show, and now that the bracket has come out, I think it's gaining more attention nationally. But the job that Nolan Smith has done at Tennessee State, first off, the story of when he got hired and just how quickly that's turned here. But they play really well throughout the season. They're in the tournament. They're the 15 seed taking on Iowa State. And I know you got the chance to talk to Nolan Smith the other day. What do you make of just that story and what he's done being hired in July of this past year?
Well, I think that's as much of the story as anything here. When you think about it, Robbie, Tennessee State lost Penny Collins in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Well after the transfer portal and most things that happen in the offseason and the typical flow of getting a new coach. And Nolan Smith came in, and he was able to convince every guy in that locker room that this is where they belonged, that they still had a chance to accomplish all of their dreams, and frankly said, we're going to be better. We're going to go out, and you see those banners up there and the one that says 1994 for the last time that you made the NCAA tournament. That's what we're going to do this year. And he got them all to buy in right from the beginning. They made some changes to what they do defensively, and they just got better and better as the season goes along. And the thing I love about them, Robbie, is they've had to play pressure-packed basketball down the stretch of the year. If you go back to the last couple of weeks of the regular season, with 4 games left, with 2 games a week in the conference, they basically were set up where they had to win the first 2 to give themselves a shot in the last week of the regular season. And then they went to the road and they had to win both of those to get a share of the conference title, and they won them. And then they go to Evansville in the conference tournament, and you got to win both of those games to cut down the nets and get that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. And that's exactly what they did. They did it with a streak here at the end of the season, playing really hot. They've got guards that can bother you defensively and can fill it up on the offensive end. Now, it is an enormous task to tackle this Iowa State team, but there's no pressure on them. So let's just go play, have a lot of fun in St. Louis on Friday, and let the chips fall where they may.
So, Steve, obviously, Casey Alexander, somebody you've worked really closely with over the last few years, he takes the job at Kansas State. Look, I'm really happy for him. I'm really interested to see how this goes here at K-State. He did a great job at Belmont, as you know. What do you make of this opportunity for Casey Alexander taking the Kansas State job?
Yeah, number one, I love Casey. He's one of my dear friends. So I am fired up for him to have this opportunity to compete at the highest level at a place that will support the basketball program with the resources that an autonomous 4, a power 4, however you want to say it, league can do. You know, he's going to have a huge assistant pool. He's going to have huge money in terms of revenue share and name, image, and likeness packages that they can offer to the team. And that will allow him to do what he wants to do. And if you heard him talk yesterday, Robbie, the things he said about K-State, I think stand out for the reason why this move would be made. Number one, he was met in the building where they did the introduction with hundreds of people for the introductory press conference. Basically, everybody who was invited to come came, because that's how much it matters in Manhattan, Kansas. But the bigger points he said was, it's well documented that we've lost some really good players at Belmont over the years just because there was no way that we would be able to keep them financially, because they got paid big time dollars to go to places like K-State. And that's the thing that he gets now, is if he builds that program from the ground up and has a program based off of development like it was at Belmont, he's not going to automatically lose every Will Richard and Jacoby Gillespie and Cade Tyson and Malik Dia to the highest bidder. He can keep some of those guys and keep the continuity in his program. And then the second part here that, frankly, Robbie, I don't think had been talked about enough is going back to his days at Lipscomb. Casey Alexander has 10 straight 20-win seasons. There are a handful of coaches at any level in the country that can say that. But most of those other guys are all at jobs that you get to 20 wins, you're automatically into the NCAA tournament. And Casey in that time earned 2 bids. One at Lipscomb and the other one at Belmont in the year that the tournament was canceled by COVID. So in 10 straight 20-win seasons, he had the pleasure of coaching in the tournament for 1 game. If he goes to K-State and has 10 straight 20-win seasons, he not only will be in the tournament every year, they'll be building statues outside. And so that's just the difference in the job. And for that reason, I'm so excited for him to have the opportunity, because I believe X's and O's wise, he's one of the truly best coaches in America.
Yeah, I'm really happy for him. I'm very interested to see how it goes there. All right, Steve, last thing for you, and I may be putting you on the spot here. I'm sorry. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a national championship pick here for the tournament?
I do. I think I'm going to go with Arizona. I
Okay.
reserve the right to back off of that, because I'll be honest, I haven't totally filled out a bracket at this point. But I will say this, Robbie. I think we're looking at a lot of chalk. We had 4 number ones last year. I don't know if you get 4 number ones again, but it is a field, I think because of the rev share and the NIL, that it is a big difference as you look through the bracket. Largest average spread for the 5-12 line, 4-13 line, and 3-14 line in the history of the tournament. So you may not see a ton of those mid-major upsets that we all love in the first weekend of the tournament, but I think that will make for a really good second weekend with a lot of the top seeds advancing. And if you look at it, I think the top 3 number ones are historically good in the metrics. So I think Duke, Michigan, and Arizona all make the Final Four. I'm kind of thinking the South is the region where there could be a little chaos. And I do like Vandy. I'm taking Vandy to the Elite Eight there. I haven't totally decided whether it'll be Houston or Illinois who plays them and probably ultimately goes to the Final Four for me. But the reason I'm taking Arizona is I think Arizona got the best path of any one in the West. I think that's the weakest region to get out of. And right now there's an injury question for both Duke and Michigan in the backcourt. Arizona is completely healthy. I think they're going back to Indianapolis where they won in 1997, and almost 30 years later, I think they cut down the nets like Mike Bibby and Jason Terry and those guys did.
Yep, seems to be a very popular pick. I think Rexrode is riding with you there, so we'll see how that all plays out. Steve, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Going to be a really fun week as the tournament gets underway, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Well, now I got to change my pick if you tell me that Rexrode took him.
He is the nation's leading
appreciate
bracketologist.
You, wow. Well, I appreciate that. I enjoyed comparing notes with him, and I enjoyed talking with you this morning, Robbie. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you, man. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5, our guest here on the program. We'll wrap the show up. Coming up next, take your thoughts on the NCAA tournament. We got some Preds thoughts to get to. We got thoughts from the Jeremiah Love discussion we had earlier in the show. We'll wrap it all up next. Robbie and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Raise a glass with Tennessee Brew Works, proud partner and official craft beer of the football offseason coverage here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Final segment of the day here on Robby and Rexrode. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Steve Lehman for being with us in the last segment. Next man up is coming up next. We'll see if Jake Lyman acknowledges today the number one bracketologist in the United States of America, or I guess as Ian, he put it more accurately today. Apparently there's a site that's ranked all this.
Yes.
And Rexrode's coming in at 195th. Not quite the number one that I was looking for.
Yeah, tough rankings there.
195th.
Yeah.
First off, how many bracketologists are there?
I was going to say that's a lot of bracketologists. 200 and something.
How many do we need?
I think just Joe. I think just one.
Totally agree.
Yeah, maybe he can just create a monopoly somehow.
Ian, have you filled out your bracket yet?
I have not. I don't think I'm going to completely fill out a bracket.
Okay.
I've enjoyed over the years not filling out a bracket more so than filling out a bracket.
Just being able to watch it.
Just watch it and enjoy the madness for the madness, and not really have in the moment just kind of feel for who I want to win and not have to worry about cheering for somebody because I picked them in my bracket. I used to kind of do that with fantasy football. I was out on fantasy football for a long time because it was affecting the way I watched the games.
Sure.
It wasn't as fun. Like I wasn't able to watch the game just to watch the game and enjoy how it went, and just root for who I kind of feel like in the moment. It's hard to root for the Titans to win, but you still want Christian McCaffrey to have a good game. So I kind of bailed on fantasy football. I've come back to fantasy. I have not come back yet to the brackets. So we'll see.
I'm really trying to talk myself into a deep run for California Baptist. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fully get myself there.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one for a deep run. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of feels like the favorites are going to kind of, I don't know, take control again.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Like that's with all the NIL stuff. And, you heard Steve talk about it there with Casey Alexander. Like you build up this good roster and these players at Belmont, and then all of a sudden you lose them. Like it's really fascinating how that's going to affect the tournament moving forward. I mean, we see a lot of upsets, and I still stand by this. I think people love the upsets this week.
Yeah.
And then basically beyond that, it's like, all right, well, let's see the best teams.
We want to see the best teams.
I think you're going to see less upsets moving forward, just because these guys who in the past, hung around on programs for 2-3 years and maybe were much better players.
Fourth-year guys, yeah.
They're gone. Like people identify them and they pay them and they go to, Arkansas or whatever it is.
With the smaller schools, you did see that in the tournament.
Yeah.
Your high-end elite teams with younger players versus maybe smaller school teams with very experienced players, fifth-year seniors, all that kind of stuff, who could maybe shoot but didn't really know.
There's still some of that, but it's not as much.
And the top in this league, or this year in general in college basketball, the top has just been so good.
Yep.
It's been pretty much the same 10-8 teams throughout the entire year. A few slip-ups here and there, but I kind of feel like I'm going as far as like a Final Four. Give me like a UConn, Houston, Michigan, Arizona, a couple of twos and a couple of ones. It'll be something like that.
Well, it's going to be fun. Get started, I guess, technically today with the first 4 games, and then we're at it. Coming up on Thursday, Rexrode will be back with us tomorrow live from Oklahoma City as Vanderbilt prepares to play in their first-round matchup against McNeese. That does it for us today. Next man up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.